What if the most iconic status symbol in fashion, the legendary Birkin bag, was never really made in France? What if everything we thought we knew about craftsmanship, exclusivity, and luxury was a lie? That's exactly what's being alleged after a whistleblower dropped what might be the most explosive receipts in fashion history. Hundreds of pages of documents, factory footage, shipping logs, and marketing schedules have just been leaked, and they paint a devastating picture. Not just for Hermès, but for the entire luxury fashion industry. Birkins, the ultimate sign of wealth and taste, may have been mass-produced in Chinese factories for under $700, then flipped for tens of thousands in Parisian boutiques. And now? Hermès isn't defending itself with proof. They're defending with lawyers. But the receipts? They're already out. And what they reveal might shatter the illusion for good. It didn't start with headlines or hashtags. It started with a whisper. A single anonymous figure, allegedly a former Hermès supply chain associate, stepped out of the shadows and dropped a bombshell that's still sending shockwaves through the fashion world. This wasn't some angry ex-employee posting vague accusations online. This was methodical, strategic, and backed by over 140 pages of internal documents. We're talking factory invoices, shipping receipts, procurement memos, and spreadsheets, each one carefully tracing the life of a Birkin bag not through the cobblestone streets of Paris, but through fluorescent-lit production floors in Shenzhen, China. According to the whistleblower's evidence, Birkins weren't being stitched in silence by artisans in France. They were being mass-produced abroad for as little as $700, then quietly shipped to Europe, given a final touch-up, slapped with a Made in France label, and resold for upwards of $30,000 in elite boutiques. The files even included time-stamped shipping logs and customs paperwork showing exact routes, from Chinese factories to French finishing centers, with stopovers timed for rebranding. But this wasn't just paper. The whistleblower released raw video footage of the production lines. Dozens of workers assembling leather bags in bulk, surrounded by rows of the iconic orange Hermès boxes, packed and processed like fast fashion, not high fashion. That's when everything changed. Because this wasn't just speculation. It was visual proof. And it dismantled the very myth Hermès built its empire on, that Birkins were sacred objects of craftsmanship, born from tradition, stitched with heritage. The internet lit up with disbelief. Fashion insiders scrambled. Influencers suddenly had to rethink their closets. And Hermès, they didn't respond with transparency. They responded with legal threats. But by that point, the receipts were already circulating. The truth was out, and the world was watching. For years, Hermès has sold more than just handbags. They've sold a dream, a fantasy handcrafted in the heart of Paris. Their marketing played like a love letter to old-world craftsmanship. Leather artisans trained for years, hand-stitching Birkins in quiet ateliers under soft candlelight, each bag taking up to 20 hours to complete. Every detail was romanticized. The handle alone said to require 4 hours of focused work. These weren't just accessories. They were status symbols steeped in legacy. And consumers bought in, spending tens of thousands of dollars to own a piece of that legacy. But the whistleblower's footage shattered that fantasy in seconds. Instead of quaint ateliers, the videos showed assembly line conditions, fluorescent lights, crowded factory floors, rows of workers churning out Hermès boxes like they were fast fashion shipments. The idea of patient, delicate craftsmanship was replaced by the sight of conveyor belts and bulk inventory. And suddenly, those viral TikToks showing dupes made in China didn't feel like exaggerations. In fact, some creators began posting side-by-side comparisons of their designer bags and the so-called replicas, and shockingly, many couldn't spot a difference. The stitching was identical. The leather looked the same. Even the hardware matched. If these weren't genuine, then what was? The illusion cracked, and for many, it was personal. Shoppers who had saved up, waited on lists, and spent small fortunes to own the real thing were now questioning if they'd been deceived. What's the value of a $30,000 bag if it shares a supply chain with a $700 factory product? Hermès had built its brand on rarity and precision, but the evidence now suggested mass production and relabeling. And while the company remained silent, the public conversation shifted. The myth of handmade in Paris wasn't just being questioned, it was being dismantled. And once that kind of trust breaks, it doesn't come back easily. When a billion-dollar brand is accused of deception, the natural response would be transparency, especially one that prides itself on legacy and craftsmanship. But Hermès chose a different path. Rather than opening the doors to their fabled French ateliers or offering a behind-the-scenes look to disprove the claims, they went on the offensive. Just days after the whistleblower released over 140 pages of receipts and footage, Hermès filed a massive $25 million lawsuit. The charges: defamation, intellectual property theft, and breach of trade secrecy laws. It was a bold legal move, but it wasn't the proof the public was asking for. Their official press release only fueled suspicion. It didn't directly deny the whistleblower's evidence. Instead, it leaned on vague language, stating the materials had been taken out of context and crafted to mislead. There were no screenshots to counter the claims, no factory tours, no artisan interviews. In the era of social media transparency, Hermès offered none. And that silence spoke volumes. Because if the bags are truly handmade in France, if the craftsmanship is as sacred as they've claimed for decades, why not show it? Why not walk the public through every step of the process to restore confidence? Critics weren't shy about calling out the contradiction. Instead of protecting its reputation with clarity, Hermès chose to weaponize the courtroom. Legal pressure over public honesty. And for many, that was the clearest answer of all. The optics of suing a whistleblower, rather than disproving her, made the company look defensive, not credible. On TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit, the backlash only intensified. Consumers weren't just angry, they felt betrayed. Because when a brand that built its empire on heritage refuses to defend that heritage with facts, people start to wonder what else they're hiding. And in the age of screenshots and viral receipts, silence isn't protection, it's an admission. At first glance, it just looked like luxury as usual. Kim Kardashian posing with a rare Himalayan Birkin, flashbulbs capturing her arm candy as she left high-end restaurants or strolled through airport terminals. But according to newly leaked PR files from the Hermes whistleblower, these posts weren't random style choices. They were carefully timed countermeasures, part of an internal strategy Hermes allegedly used to manage public perception during moments of controversy. The documents refer to these moments as priority activation waves, and Kim's Birkin showcases appear to have played a critical role, not to boost sales but to drown out bad press. The whistleblower's files suggest that Kim's Birkin posts weren't organic, spontaneous flexes. They were reportedly coordinated to coincide with internal PR crises, especially when factory rumors or sourcing controversies threatened to go viral. Each appearance of a rare or customized Birkin on Kim's social media was allegedly tracked and measured, with internal documents noting spikes in Google search volume and dips in negative sentiment on Twitter. The strategy? Redirect the public's focus from allegations of Chinese mass production back to the fantasy of luxury. Her posts weren't labeled /ad or marked as collaborations, but the whistleblower claims they were paid for through veiled collaboration fees buried in brand deals. Not traditional hush money, but eerily close. And if that's true, it changes everything. Kim Kardashian, long seen as the ultimate fashion influencer, may not have just been a passive face of the brand. She may have been an active part of Hermès' alleged cover-up machine. While she's made no public statement addressing the allegations, fans are already revisiting her posts with fresh eyes. The timing, the frequency, the polished perfection, it all looks different now. If even a fraction of the whistleblower's documentation is accurate, Kim's decades-long Birkin obsession wasn't just fashion content. It was damage control dressed in crocodile skin. And for a public that feels increasingly duped by luxury branding, that revelation hits hard. Kim Kardashian's name was just the beginning. As TikTok sleuths and Reddit investigators dug deeper into the whistleblower's leaked documents, they uncovered something far bigger, a full-blown system of coordinated celebrity distraction. The files included coded references to multiple stars, with vague labels like Project B and Drop D, paired with specific dates and product releases. Internet users quickly started connecting the dots, and the pattern was impossible to ignore. Every time a whisper about Hermes outsourcing or production fraud began gaining traction online, a celebrity would just happen to post an ultra-luxurious Hermes moment. No paid ad disclosures, no sponsored tags, just a glossy, well-timed flex. Names like Beyoncé, Rihanna, Hailey Bieber, and even Drake appeared to be at the center of these so-called distraction waves. Each had posted Hermes-related content, either a red carpet appearance, a paparazzi moment, or a casual social post during critical PR windows. The whistleblower's files claim these moments were no accident. Allegedly, six-figure payments were funneled through broad marketing agreements, avoiding direct links to any crisis communications. To the public, it looked like effortless luxury, but internally, it was described as strategic containment. The goal wasn't just to influence fashion, it was to hijack the narrative and drown out whistleblower noise before it caught fire. None of the celebrities named in fan investigations have publicly addressed the claims. And to be clear, the documents do not include direct payment receipts or emails linking the stars personally, just coded schedules, marketing metrics, and internal chatter. But the internet doesn't need much to start connecting timelines. TikTok is flooded with breakdowns of coincidental Birkin sightings. Reddit is charting every celebrity Hermes post against breaking news about the factory leaks. The result? A public increasingly convinced that what looked like lifestyle content may have been strategic PR warfare. And if that's the case, it's not just about brand loyalty anymore. It's about complicity, whether these stars knew or not. The moment the leaks went public, the internet did what it does best. It mobilized. Outrage turned into investigation, and speculation turned into action. Within hours, posts with titles like "I spent $22,000 on a bag made in Shenzhen" shot to the top of Reddit fashion threads. Users weren't just venting, they were documenting. Side-by-side photos of Birkins were being compared under microscopes. Serial numbers were posted, stitching patterns were examined. Everything from handle shapes to zipper construction was fair game. TikTok followed suit with dramatic reenactments, slowed down unboxing clips, and forensic-level breakdowns of past Hermes campaigns. What once looked like aspirational content now felt suspiciously strategic. Collectors once proud to display their Birkin closets began to switch tones. Some posted tearful, "Why I'm selling my Birkin" confessionals. Others archived their content or pivoted to promoting vintage Chanel instead. Influencers who had built their personal brands on luxury were suddenly deleting photos, disabling comments, or avoiding the topic altogether. Even major resale platforms felt the shockwave. According to industry reports, Birkin-related search traffic dropped by as much as 40% in a single week. Listings stalled, bidding dried up. One executive at a luxury resale site anonymously admitted to a fashion blog, "We're in a holding pattern. Buyers are scared to bid. Sellers don't want to list." And through it all, Hermes remained silent. No clarifying statements. No evidence to disprove the leaks. Not even a symbolic show of confidence in their own products. In an age where a single tweet can control a narrative and a TikTok stitch can end a brand, that silence was deafening. Because this wasn't just a PR issue anymore, it was a trust issue. And once the public starts investigating what a brand tried to hide, the damage doesn't just fade with time. It deepens with every new post, every new receipt, and every unanswered question. Just when the scandal seemed like it couldn't get any worse, the courtroom doors flew open. A class action lawsuit was filed in California federal court, and it may be the most dangerous threat Hermes has ever faced. The suit accuses the brand of violating antitrust laws through a practice known as product tying, a tactic where customers were allegedly forced to spend tens of thousands on lower-tier Hermes items like shoes, scarves, or belts just to be eligible for a chance to purchase a Birkin. Not guaranteed to buy one, not allowed to pick a style, just to be considered. And now, that quiet industry practice is being dragged into the legal spotlight, armed with receipts. The leaked whistleblower files back up the allegations with disturbing clarity. Spreadsheets detail minimum spend thresholds. Sales associate emails describe strategies for grooming clients, encouraging them to purchase non-essential items to build loyalty points. Internal memos even lay out how certain customers were flagged as BPC or Birkin potential clients, based on spending history and perceived status. These weren't isolated cases. This was an organized global sales system, and while it's long been whispered about in elite fashion circles, this is the first time it's being legally challenged, with documentation to support every claim. If Hermès loses this case, the ruling won't just punish one brand, it could rewrite how the entire luxury industry operates. Because here's the real danger. Hermès isn't the only brand accused of doing this. Louis Vuitton, Dior, Chanel, they all allegedly rely on this same exclusivity model. If a court finds that product tying is not only unethical but illegal, the dominoes could fall fast. Brands would be forced to change their sales structures, potentially refund customers, and open themselves up to further lawsuits. The entire "you can't buy it unless you're chosen" mystique that fuels luxury retail could crumble overnight. And in a digital world where power is shifting from private showrooms to public platforms, a single court decision could bring decades of secretive sales tactics crashing down for good. What started as a single exposé about Hermès has now erupted into a full-blown fashion industry crisis. Behind the curtain, panic has taken hold. Sources close to the industry report that major powerhouses like LVMH, Chanel, and Kering have quietly triggered internal audits in response to the Hermès scandal. Legal teams are scrambling, supply chain heads are being pulled into emergency meetings. And PR departments are urgently rewriting copy, removing language like handmade in Paris, heritage craftsmanship, and exclusive atelier production from websites and campaign briefs. This isn't just brand damage control, it's corporate triage. Because once the illusion of luxury is questioned, every claim becomes a liability, and every receipt becomes a threat. The shift is already visible across platforms. Influencers who once flaunted designer hauls are now posting luxury regret videos and exposé content. YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are flooded with creators dissecting brand myths, analyzing factory footage, and urging followers to think twice before chasing exclusivity. Some former luxury loyalists are pivoting to pre-owned or independent fashion, citing ethics and transparency. Others are rebranding entirely, deleting past unboxings, distancing themselves from Hermès, and scrubbing captions that once boasted about 40K handbags. Resale markets are shifting, fashion creators are evolving, and even the most loyal luxury collectors are asking questions they never thought they'd ask. The Hermès scandal didn't just expose one brand, it cracked open a system. A carefully engineered illusion built on secrecy, curated access, and gate-kept information. For decades, luxury fashion thrived on what it didn't say. But in the digital age, silence no longer protects. It incriminates. The public is no longer satisfied with fairy tales of artisans and ateliers. They want proof. And brands that don't move fast to offer real transparency are already being left behind. This isn't just a scandal, it's a reckoning. And for an industry that sold perfection as its product, being exposed as imperfect may be the most dangerous thing of all. Hermès thought they could sue the truth into silence. But in 2025, screenshots move faster than any press release. The whistleblower didn't just drop a controversy, she exposed a pattern, a strategy, a culture of deception dressed up as exclusivity. And now the luxury industry is at a crossroads. Radical transparency, or collapse. Because the public isn't asking for much, just proof, just honesty. And until Hermès or any other brand can show their bags are truly handmade in France, every influencer post looks like propaganda. Every luxury label sounds like a lie. This isn't just about one bag, one brand, or one scandal. It's about a system being exposed in real time. And this time, the receipts aren't rumors, they're screenshots. And the internet never forgets.